The Mojave Desert shimmered under the merciless afternoon sun, its vast expanse of sand and rock stretching endlessly toward the horizon. Dr. Sarah Chen wiped sweat from her brow as she adjusted the settings on her atmospheric scanner, the device's soft beeping providing the only competition to the whisper of hot wind across the dunes. The geological survey was supposed to be routine, just another day of collecting data on increasing desert temperatures and their effects on the underlying aquifers. That was before the sky tore open. The anomaly appeared without warning, a brilliant purple tear in the atmosphere that lasted mere seconds. Sarah's instruments screamed in protest as readings spiked off their scales. Through the blinding flash, she glimpsed something falling, its descent leaving a trail of iridescent particles in its wake. The object crashed behind a distant ridge, sending a plume of sand skyward. "Control, are you seeing this?" Sarah's voice cracked as she fumbled with her satellite phone. Static answered her call. Whatever had fallen from the sky was interfering with communications. Following her scientific instincts, and perhaps against her better judgment, she climbed into her research vehicle and headed toward the impact site. As she crested the ridge 20 minutes later, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The crashed object was clearly artificial. A sleek vessel about the size of a small private jet, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors in the desert sun. But it was the material's behavior that captured her attention. The hull appeared to be slowly repairing itself, like liquid metal flowing to seal the tears from impact. Sarah's training kicked in. She pulled on her protective gear and grabbed her sample collection kit, approaching the vessel with careful steps. Her Geiger counter remained silent. No radiation, at least not of any kind Earth's technology could detect. As she drew closer, she noticed patterns etched into the hull that reminded her of circuit boards, but they pulsed with a dim internal light. A sound like crystal chimes filled the air, and a section of the hull simply dissolved, revealing an opening. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribs as cool air wafted from within. The interior was bathed in a soft bioluminescent glow that seemed to respond to her presence, brightening as she hesitated at the threshold. "Hello," she called out, knowing it was probably futile. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm here to help." A weak sound drew her attention deeper into the vessel. Following the bioluminescent lighting that seemed to guide her way, Sarah made her way through corridors that felt organic rather than constructed. She found the source of the sound in what appeared to be a control center. There, slumped in what could only be the pilot's seat, was a being that simultaneously confirmed humanity's greatest hopes and fears about alien life. The figure was humanoid but clearly not human, tall and elegant, with skin that held a subtle pattern of luminescence similar to the ship's interior. What struck Sarah most wasn't the alien's obvious technological advancement, but rather how vulnerable they looked in that moment. The alien's eyes opened, revealing irises that swirled with colors like an aurora borealis. A pained sound escaped their lips as they tried to move, revealing severe injuries from the crash. Sarah's medical training, limited though it was to Earth biology, urged her to act. "Please," the alien spoke, their voice carrying a musical quality that seemed to bypass Sarah's ears and resonate directly in her mind. "I am Naira, and my presence here puts your world in grave danger." Sarah's hands stilled as she was preparing to examine Naira's injuries. "What kind of danger?" "They follow me." Naira's luminescence flickered like a failing light. "Those who would reshape your world to their desires. I fled to protect, to warn." The alien's voice faded as consciousness slipped away. Sarah pulled out her satellite phone again, and this time it connected. "Control, this is Dr. Chen. I need a full containment and medical team at my coordinates immediately. Priority level Alpha. And sir, you're going to want to see this yourself." As she waited for backup to arrive, Sarah found herself gently holding one of Naira's hands, noting how the alien's bioluminescence seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. Her mind raced with implications: first contact, potential threats to Earth, the incredible advanced technology surrounding her. But what struck her most was how this moment felt both monumentally huge and intimately personal. The sound of approaching helicopters broke through her thoughts. Sarah knew that in moments, this discovery would belong to the world, or at least to whatever government agencies arrived first. But for now, in this quiet moment as the desert sun began to set, she was perhaps the first human to form a connection with a being from another world. As if reading her thoughts, Naira's hand tightened slightly around hers, and the ship's lights pulsed once, softly. Sarah smiled, sensing that this was just the beginning of a much larger story, one that would challenge humanity's place in the universe, and perhaps reveal strengths they never knew they possessed. The real question was, would they be ready for what followed? Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Sarah paced the length of the underground facility's observation room. Through the reinforced window, she could see Naira floating in a specially designed containment chamber filled with a nutrient solution that mimicked the biochemistry of her ship's healing systems. 3 weeks had passed since the crash, and the alien princess's injuries were slowly healing, though not nearly fast enough for the increasing number of military and intelligence officials demanding answers. Her vital signs are stabilizing. Dr. Marcus Rivera, the facility's chief medical officer, reported as he studied the holographic displays surrounding them. But it's her neural patterns that fascinate me. They're becoming increasingly synchronized with the chamber's control systems. It's as if she's interfacing with our technology, even while unconscious. Sarah nodded, remembering how the alien ship had responded to her presence. Their technology seems to be partially biological, integrated with their consciousness somehow. Have you made any progress analyzing the samples from her vessel? That's just it, Marcus replied, running a hand through his graying hair. Every time we think we understand something, it shifts. The material adapts, evolves. It's like trying to study a living organism that keeps learning from our tests. A subtle change in the chamber's lighting drew their attention. Naira's eyes had opened, swirling with those mesmerizing colors that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Her hand pressed against the chamber's transparent wall, leaving traces of bioluminescence in her wake. "Let me talk to her," Sarah said, already moving toward the chamber's entrance. Behind her, she could hear Marcus protesting about protocols and containment procedures, but she had spent enough time studying the alien's responses to know she wasn't a threat, at least not directly. The chamber's outer door hissed shut behind her as Sarah approached Naira. The alien princess had managed to sit up, her silvery hair floating around her like a cosmic nebula in the nutrient solution. When she spoke, her words still carried that strange resonance that seemed to bypass normal hearing. "Dr. Chen." Naira's voice was stronger now, though tinged with urgency. "They're coming. I can feel them at the edges of your solar system." Sarah pulled up a chair, trying to maintain a calm exterior despite her racing heart. "Who's coming, Naira? You mentioned something about danger when we found you, but we need to understand what we're facing." Naira's luminescence pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as distress. "My people, or rather, those who have taken control of my civilization. They call themselves the Shapers, and they believe it is their destiny to perfect other worlds." "Perfect them how?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "They use technology far beyond what you've seen in my vessel to terraform planets, reshaping them to match their ideal of perfection. But their process." Naira's lights dimmed. "It destroys everything native to the world. All life, all ecosystems, replaced with their vision of what should be." Sarah felt a chill despite the room's carefully regulated temperature. "And they're coming here. Why?" "Because of me." Naira's expression carried a weight of guilt that transcended species. "I am not just any member of my people. My bloodline carries genetic markers from the ancient ones who first developed our biointegration technology. The Shapers need me to unlock certain aspects of their terraforming process. When I discovered their true plans, I flooded with data that could expose their actions to other civilizations." A sharp knock on the observation window interrupted them. General Helena Martinez, the facility's new military overseer, stood with her arms crossed, clearly wanting an update. Sarah held up a hand, asking for more time. Naira, how long do we have? And more importantly, can we stop them? The alien princess's bioluminescence took on a pattern Sarah hadn't seen before, something almost like hope. Your world has something they don't expect, Dr. Chen. Your people possess an adaptability, a resilience that my civilization lost long ago in our pursuit of perfect integration with our technology. The Shapers believe they will find a primitive world easy to overcome, but I've seen your potential. Naira's hand pressed against the chamber wall again, and Sarah found herself matching the gesture from the other side. Where their hands aligned, the bioluminescence brightened intensely. What was that? Sarah gasped, feeling a slight tingling sensation. An exchange, Naira replied, wonder in her voice. Your bodies may be primitive by our standards, but your neural plasticity is remarkable. You're already beginning to adapt to our biotechnology. That may be our advantage. Before Sarah could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. General Martinez burst into the chamber, her face grave. Dr. Chen, we're detecting multiple objects entering the solar system at impossible speeds. They're not natural, and they're headed straight for Earth. Sarah looked back at Naira, whose expression confirmed her fears. The Shapers, the alien princess whispered. They found us. How long? Sarah asked, her mind already racing through possibilities. At their current velocity. Martinez checked her tablet. Less than 72 hours until first contact. Sarah squared her shoulders, years of scientific problem-solving kicking into high gear. Then we have 72 hours to figure out how to combine our primitive resilience with their advanced technology. General, we're going to need everything you can give us access to. And Naira. She turned back to the alien princess. We need to know everything about how your biotechnology works. Every detail. Naira's bioluminescence pulsed with determination. Together, then, we show the Shapers that perfection isn't about reshaping worlds. It's about adapting to them. As the facility erupted into activity around them, Sarah couldn't help but feel that humanity was about to face its greatest test. But looking at the determination in Naira's otherworldly eyes, she also felt something else. Hope. Sometimes the greatest strength came not from technological advancement, but from the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. They had 72 hours to prove that humanity's greatest asset was its imperfection. The desert facility hummed with activity as Sarah studied the holographic display floating above Naira's medical chamber. The alien's bioluminescence had merged with the facility's hastily modified systems, creating an otherworldly interface that displayed the approaching Shaper vessels as points of dark purple light against the backdrop of their solar system. They're using the sun's gravitational field to accelerate, Naira explained, her voice stronger now that she was fully immersed in the nutrient solution. It's a technique that allows them to bypass normal space-time limitations. They'll be here sooner than your military calculated. Sarah pressed her palm against the chamber surface, and the now familiar tingling sensation spread up her arm. Over the past 48 hours, her neural connection with Naira's biotechnology had strengthened considerably. She wasn't the only one. Across the facility, other researchers and even some military personnel had begun showing signs of adaptation to the alien technology. Tell me about these genetic markers you carry, Sarah said, watching as her own neural patterns appeared as golden threads in the holographic display, interweaving with Naira's silver ones. You said they're from the Ancient Ones. Naira's expression turned distant, her luminescence shifting to deeper blues. My ancestors were among the first to develop biointegration technology. They believed in harmony with natural systems rather than dominance over them. The Shapers, she paused, her lights pulsing with anger. They corrupted that vision, turning it into a weapon of transformation rather than adaptation. The chamber's door slid open as General Martinez entered, followed by Dr. Rivera and a team of engineers. We've got movement, Martinez announced, her usual military stoicism tinged with concern. They're not heading directly for us anymore. Instead, they're taking up positions over every major desert region on Earth. Of course, Naira's lights flared. They're starting with familiar territory. Deserts are easier to reshape, to use as anchors for larger transformation matrices. She turned to Sarah, her otherworldly eyes intense. We need to move. This facility is too exposed. Move where? Martins demanded. We've got unknown hostile forces positioning themselves around the globe, civilian populations to protect, and barely functioning alien tech. We need a plan, not a retreat. Sarah's mind raced, remembering something from her initial discovery of Naira's crash site. The patterns, she said suddenly. The circuit-like designs on your ship. They weren't just decoration, were they? Naira's bioluminescence brightened with appreciation. No, they're part of an ancient defense network, laid down by my ancestors during their early explorations. Most have been dormant for millennia. But, she hesitated, looking at Sarah meaningfully. But what? But they might respond to a hybrid neural signature, someone carrying both human adaptability and access to our biotechnology. Martinez stepped closer to the chamber, her skepticism warring with desperate hope. Are you saying there's some kind of alien defense system buried under Earth's deserts? Not weapons, Naira clarified. Tools for planetary harmony, for balancing ecological systems. But in the right hands, with the right understanding. They could be used to counter the Shaper's terraforming technology. Sarah finished, excitement building. General, we need to get to the secondary facility in the Painted Desert. If I'm right, there's a node of Naira's ancestral network there. The facility's lights suddenly dimmed as alarms began blaring. Dr. Rivera rushed to a monitoring station, his face pale. They're starting. Massive energy signatures over the Sahara and the Arabian Peninsula. The atmospheric readings are going crazy. Through their strengthened connection, Sarah felt Naira's fear and determination as if they were her own. The alien princess raised her hand, matching it to Sarah's through the chamber wall. We need to move now. The Shapers will detect my presence soon. And when they do. Authorized. Martins barked, already typing commands into her tactical pad. Dr. Chen, you and Princess Naira will take our prototype transport with the security detail. Dr. Rivera, begin evacuating non-essential personnel. I'll coordinate with Global Command to buy you as much time as we can. As the facility erupted into urgent activity, Sarah helped the medical team prepare Naira's chamber for transport. Through the observation windows, she could see the desert sky turning an ominous purple-black, unnatural storms beginning to form on the horizon. Sarah, Naira's voice was soft, but clear in her mind. What we're attempting, it's never been done. The blending of your neural adaptability with our ancient systems could be dangerous. Sarah managed a smile as she checked the chamber's power systems. Humanity's gotten pretty good at doing things that have never been done before. It's kind of our specialty. And that, Naira replied, her bioluminescence pulsing with warmth, is exactly why I chose your world to flee to. The Shapers believe they're bringing perfection to the galaxy, but they've forgotten something crucial. What's that? That true perfection isn't about reshaping reality to match your vision. It's about having the wisdom and courage to adapt yourself instead. The transport vehicle roared to life as teams loaded equipment and personnel. Above them, the storm clouds began to spin in impossible patterns, and the desert wind carried whispers of change that humanity was never meant to hear. But as Sarah watched Naira's determination matching her own, she felt a surge of that uniquely human emotion. Defiance in the face of impossible odds. They had found the ultimate weapon against the Shaper's vision of perfection. The beautiful imperfection of human adaptation. Now they just had to reach the ancient network before the storms of change erased everything they were fighting to protect. The race against extinction had begun. The transport vehicle carved through the desert night like a bullet through darkness, its modified engines humming with a combination of human engineering and alien biotechnology. Inside, Sarah monitored Naira's vital signs as the alien princess's chamber pulsed with increasing urgency. Through the reinforced windows, the sky had become an apocalyptic canvas of purples and blacks, supernatural storms spinning into existence across the horizon. Energy readings are off the charts. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the driver's seat, her hand steady on the controls despite the growing chaos. Those storms are reshaping the atmosphere's chemical composition. Whatever they're doing, it's changing the planet at a molecular level. Sarah felt Naira's consciousness brush against her own. Their neural connection had grown strong enough for direct communication. The Shapers always begin with the air. Naira's thoughts carried images of other worlds transformed, their skies turned alien and hostile to native life. They believe that by changing what a planet breathes, they can force evolution in their desired direction. A massive lightning bolt of deep violet struck the desert floor several miles ahead, and where it touched, the sand began to crystallize into geometric patterns that spread like frost across a window. Sarah's scientific mind struggled to process the impossibility of what she was seeing. Fundamental forces of nature being rewritten before her eyes. "We're getting reports from around the globe," Commander Torres announced from the communication station. Similar phenomena in the Sahara, the Arabian Peninsula, the Australian outback, every major desert region is experiencing simultaneous transformation. Military responses have been ineffective. Sarah wasn't surprised. How could conventional weapons fight against something that could rewrite the laws of physics? How much further to the painted desert site? 20 minutes, Rodriguez responded, swerving to avoid another crystallization pattern spreading across their path. "Assuming we can stay ahead of the transformation wave." Inside her chamber, Naira's bioluminescence flared with sudden intensity. "They've found us," she announced, her mental voice tight with concern. 3 Shaper vessels, breaking from the main fleet. They're coming to collect me and eliminate any humans who've been exposed to our biotechnology. Sarah felt her heart rate spike, but years of scientific training kept her focused. "Lieutenant, new plan. We need to get underground." The ancient network wasn't built on the surface. It would have been buried under millennia of sand and rock. "There's a mining complex 2 miles east," Torres offered, checking his tactical display. "It's been abandoned for decades, but the main shaft should still be accessible." Another violet lightning bolt struck, closer this time, and the crystallization pattern that spread from it moved faster than before. The transport's wheels crunched over transforming sand that sparkled with alien geometry. Above them, 3 points of intense purple light appeared in the storm-ravaged sky. The pursuing Shaper vessels. "Do it," Sarah commanded, and Rodriguez spun the wheel, sending them off their planned route toward the mining complex. Through their connection, Sarah felt Naira's approval and growing excitement. "The network node is close," the alien princess confirmed. "I can feel it resonating with my genetic markers." But Sarah, her mental voice turned grave. "Activating it will require both of us. The fusion of your neural adaptability with my ancestral connection. It could burn out both our minds if we're not perfectly synchronized." The transport crashed through a rusted gate, skidding to a halt near the mine's main entrance. Behind them, the crystallization patterns were consuming the desert at an alarming rate, and the Shaper vessels were descending through the storms they had created. "Better than letting them turn Earth into their version of perfection," Sarah replied, already helping the medical team prepare Naira's chamber for emergency transport down the mine shaft. Sometimes the biggest discoveries come from taking impossible risks. The first Shaper vessel fired, its beam of energy turning a nearby hill into spiraling crystals that reached toward the sky like alien fingers. The security team returned fire with modified weapons that incorporated elements of Naira's technology, managing to create brief disruptions in the Shaper's energy fields. "They're buying us time," Torres shouted over the chaos, helping guide Naira's chamber onto a makeshift elevator platform. "But we need to move now." Sarah joined Naira in the chamber, ignoring Dr. Rivera's protests about the dangers of direct biotechnological exposure. As the elevator began its descent into the earth, she pressed her hand against the chamber's interior wall. feeling the familiar tingle of alien technology spreading through her nervous system. "Together, then," she said to Naira, both aloud, and through their strengthening mental link. The alien princess's bioluminescence synchronized with Sarah's neural patterns, their combined consciousness expanding to fill the chamber with patterns of gold and silver light. As they descended deeper underground, they began to sense something ancient stirring in the rock around them, a network of living technology that had waited eons for exactly this moment. Above them, the Shapers brought their full power to bear on the mining complex, their energy beams boring through rock and soil. But they were too late. Humanity had already proven itself more adaptable than they could have imagined, and in the depths of the earth, two beings from different worlds were about to demonstrate that true perfection comes not from forcing change, but from the willingness to change yourself. The real battle for Earth's future was about to begin. The ancient network hummed to life around them, bioluminescent circuitry awakening in the walls of the mining complex like constellations being born. Sarah and Naira floated in the chamber, their minds merged into something unprecedented, neither fully human nor fully alien, but a bridge between two forms of existence that were never meant to meet. Through their shared consciousness, they could feel the Shaper's transformation spreading across Earth's surface. Deserts were becoming crystalline gardens of geometric perfection, the air itself being rewritten into something that would slowly poison native life. But they could also feel something else, the deep, patient power of Naira's ancestors waiting in the Earth's bones. "Your world remembers us." Naira's thoughts merged with Sarah's. "When my ancestors visited Earth, they didn't seek to change it. Instead, they left these tools of harmony, knowing that someday they might be needed." Above them, the Shaper's energy weapons continued to bore through rock and soil, sending tremors through the complex. But with each blast, the ancient network grew stronger, drawing power from the very forces being used against it. "They don't understand," Sarah realized, her consciousness expanding through the network. "Their version of perfection is static, unchanging. But real perfection is adaptive, alive." Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled over the emergency comm system. "Multiple contacts. The entire Shaper fleet is converging on our position. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen now." Sarah and Naira reached deeper into the network, their combined consciousness spreading through the ancient circuitry like water through parched soil. They could feel every grain of sand in Earth's deserts, every crystal being forced into unnatural patterns by the Shaper's technology. And through Sarah's human adaptability, they found what Naira's ancestors had known humanity would one day discover: the power to choose its own evolution. The network responded to their hybrid consciousness, activating protocols that had waited millennia for precisely this moment. From deep beneath every desert on Earth, waves of bioluminescent energy began to rise, not fighting against the Shaper's transformation, but adapting to it, incorporating it, transforming it into something new. "Impossible." The thought voice of a Shaper commander boomed through their consciousness. "Our vision is perfect, absolute." "That's your fundamental error," Naira projected back, her thoughts carried on waves of gold and silver light. "True perfection isn't an end state. It's the ability to keep growing, keep adapting." Sarah focused their combined power, channeling humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take the unknown and make it part of themselves. The crystalline patterns the Shapers had created began to pulse with new life, incorporating Earth's native biology rather than replacing it. Deserts became gardens, not of sterile geometric precision, but of vibrant, evolving harmony between the alien and the native. "Look at what you're fighting against," Sarah broadcast to the Shaper fleet. "Look at what becomes possible when you stop trying to enforce perfection and start adapting to find it instead." Through their shared vision, they watched as the transformed deserts began to bloom with impossible life. Crystals that grew like plants, geometric patterns that flowed like water, alien materials merging with Earth's biosphere to create something entirely new. It was neither purely Earth nor purely alien, but a demonstration of true adaptation. The Shaper vessels hung motionless in the storm-torn sky, their sensors overwhelmed by what they were witnessing. This was beyond their comprehension, a world that refused to be perfectly reformed, choosing instead to adapt and grow stronger through change. Your ancestors understood, Sarah shared with Naira as they felt the network's power stabilizing the transformations across the globe. They knew that someday, humanity's adaptability would be needed to remind your people of what they've forgotten. The Shaper Commander's next transmission carried something new: uncertainty. This is not what we expected. That's exactly the point, Naira responded. Real perfection never is. As the hybrid ecosystem stabilized around them, Sarah and Naira began carefully separating their consciousnesses, maintaining their connection to the network, but returning to their individual selves. Through the complex's remaining sensors, they watched as the Shaper fleet gradually withdrew, their rigid worldview shaken by the demonstration of a different kind of transformation. Hours later, as emergency teams worked to secure the transformed regions, Sarah stood with Naira beside her chamber, both of them watching the desert sunset through new eyes. The sky had returned to its natural blue, but now it sparkled with subtle patterns of bioluminescence, a permanent reminder that Earth had changed, not through forced perfection, but through willing adaptation. What happens now? Sarah asked, watching crystal flowers bloom in the shadow of ancient rock formations. Naira's bioluminescence pulsed with hope. Now we show the galaxy another way. My people needed to remember that true perfection isn't about reshaping worlds to match our vision. It's about having the wisdom to let worlds reshape us in return. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, they sparkled not just with their own light, but with the promise of what becomes possible when different worlds choose to adapt together. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, not through superior firepower or technology, but through its unique ability to take the alien and make it part of its own story. The deserts would never be the same, but then again, neither would humanity. And in that beautiful imperfection, they had found something far greater than the Shaper's rigid perfection. They had found evolution's highest form, the courage to change.